Emily was a very kind girl. She helped everyone she could, both in the courtyard and at school. Wherever she went, there was always someone who needed help. Her mother, Miss Gibson, often told her that she couldn't help everyone. That she needed to solve her own problems first and only then help others as much as she could. But Emily objected and said that one could not think and act that way. That first, one had to help those in need and only then help oneself. To tell the truth, Emily herself was one of those in need. They lived with her mother in poverty, which was why Miss Gibson scolded her daughter when she spent her last money on homeless animals and helped the less fortunate. But it was impossible to change Emily, especially now at 17. One day, Emily was coming home from school and saw a girl in a wheelchair sitting near a store and begging for alms. Emily couldn't just pass by someone like that. "Hi," she friendly addressed the stranger. "What are you doing here? Where are your parents?" The girl looked at Emily distrustfully and huddled up in her wheelchair. "What do you want?" she asked warily. "Nothing. I'm just asking why you're sitting here alone. Where are your parents?" "I don't have anyone," the girl said quietly. "I live with my grandmother and brother." "I see. And what are you doing near the store?" "Begging, can't you see?" The girl bristled again. "Why do you need money?" Emily couldn't calm down. "Maybe I can help you." "What are you going to do for me? Give me something to eat and go back to your warm, cozy apartment? Do you know how we live? You couldn't even dream of something like that in your worst nightmare." "Well, you're wrong," Emily calmly replied. "You don't know me at all. What's your name?" "Urka." "Nice to meet you, Grace. I'm Emily. Shall we get acquainted? Can you show me where you live?" Grace realized that this girl wouldn't leave her alone and surrendered obediently. They drove a few blocks and stopped near the door to the basement. Grace pointed towards the basement with her hand. "This is where we live. But there's no one home right now. Stephen is begging at the market and Grandma is at the station." Emily was surprised. She had walked here so many times, but she had never seen this girl before. "Sorry, can you tell me why you're here?" She pointed at the stroller. Grace hesitated, trying to decide whether to tell the stranger the truth or lie. But apparently, Emily had won her over somehow, and Grace decided to tell her what had really happened. "Stephen and I were sledding down a hill in winter. But we don't have a sled, so we were using whatever we could find. Anyway, I had a bad fall and hit my back on a tree. The doctors said I needed an expensive operation, but we don't have that kind of money. At least they gave us this wheelchair." She clearly spoke like an old woman. Even her way of speaking was somewhat elderly. "Sorry, what about your parents?" Emily asked hesitantly. "My mom and dad died in a car accident. I was 4, and Stephen was 2 years old. Our grandma took us in. And then some people came and kicked us out of our apartment. They said my dad owed them money, and they took our apartment and grandma's as payment for the debt." "How old are you now?" "I'm 13, and Stephen will be 11 next week. Why are you so curious? You keep asking and asking, but you're not telling me anything about yourself." Emily smiled, looking at Grace. She understood that the girl was forced to beg for charity. But in reality, she was smart and needed to study. "You're right, Grace, I haven't told you anything about myself, I'm sorry. I live with my mom in a one-room apartment. My dad passed away 15 years ago when I was only 2 years old, so I don't remember him at all. My mom is raising me alone and we don't have any relatives. Both my parents were from orphanages and that's how we got this apartment. I'm still in school, and my mom works 2 jobs. I help her out during the holidays, and on other days, I study to get into college and pursue a good career. That's about it. Can you tell me exactly when your brother's birthday is? It's on September 24th. Why do you ask? I want to bake him a cake. Do you really need to do that? Grace asked, genuinely surprised. Of course. It's a celebration for the boy, how can we have it without a cake? You're such a strange person, I've never met anyone like you before. Emily helped Grace get into the house and then ran home. She really wanted to tell her mom about this encounter and about Grace and her family. Emily knew that her mom would scold her again, but she couldn't help it. In the evening, when her mom came home from work, Emily began to retell her the story of the little girl who had accidentally ended up in a wheelchair and now had to beg for mercy to have money for food. Ms. Gibson also felt sorry for Grace and her family. Emily, my dear girl, you have to understand that we can't pity and help everyone. I also genuinely feel sorry for this family, but what can we do? We're barely making ends meet ourselves. How can we help them? Can I at least bake a cake for Stephen's birthday? Emily asked. Ms. Gibson looked at her daughter and smiled. She was so kind-hearted. It was a nice gesture, but they themselves had nothing to eat. Sure, go ahead and bake it. It won't make us poor, and at least the child will have some sort of celebration. Emily ran up to her mother and hugged her tightly. Mommy, I knew you would say yes. Thank you. You're the kindest mom in the world. A few days later, Emily found herself back in the same neighborhood and ran into Grace again. Hi. She waved cheerfully. Grace looked very sad and didn't react at all. Emily approached her. What's wrong? Don't you recognize me? It's me, Emily. Hi. Of course I recognize you. But my grandmother forbade me from talking to you. She said you could turn me over to child services. Grace looked at Emily with sad eyes. You wouldn't do that, would you? Of course not. What are you talking about? Tell your grandmother that I don't give away my own people. Grace breathed a sigh of relief. Emily escorted her home again and ran back to her own house. The following week, as promised, Emily baked a cake for Stephen and brought it to his address. When she approached the door to the basement, she noticed that it was not locked. Emily hesitantly knocked. Silence. She knocked again, but still no answer. Then Emily tentatively opened the door and went inside. Grace was lying on the floor. It looked like she was trying to get up from the stroller, but couldn't hold on and fell. Grace, are you okay? Emily shook Grace's shoulder. Oh, did I fall? Looks like it. Can you help me up, please? My grandmother and Stephen should be here any minute, and I haven't done anything yet. Maybe I can help you. We can do it faster together. And then Grace saw a cake on the table. Wow, it's so beautiful and huge! Exclaimed Grace. Thank you, I did my best. What kind of cake is this? It's honey cake. It's my specialty. I hope you like it. Oh, I love all kinds of cakes. It doesn't matter to me, and Stephen. She didn't finish her sentence. grandmother and a boy entered the room. It was clear that it was Grace's grandmother and brother. Stephen saw the cake on the table and looked surprised at his sister. "Where did you get the cake?" "Emily brought it as a gift for you. She baked it herself," Grace smiled. Grandmother looked Emily up and down. "Thank you, but it wasn't necessary. We're used to living without extravagance. It was no trouble for me. I just wanted to make Stephen happy on his special day." Then they had tea and cake. Emily had never seen anyone eat 3 huge pieces of cake in 5 minutes before. But Stephen handled the task very easily. He fell asleep right away. Grace also ate several smaller pieces of cake and dozed off. Emily sat and watched the heroic grandmother, who did not abandon her grandchildren and did her best to support them. "What's your name?" she asked the grandmother. "Miss Peters." "You're a great person, Miss Peters. Can I ask you, can Grace really walk?" "Yes, she can even run if we could afford the surgery. But we don't have that kind of money. And time is passing, and the longer we wait, the more difficult the surgery becomes. But honestly, I have nowhere to get the money from. I would give everything if I could." She cried quietly but bitterly. Poor woman, she had so much to deal with. It's a nightmare. It's a pity, of course. But maybe some miracle can happen. Can they appeal to some kind of fund? I did, but they looked at me like I was a bum. Although, technically, we are. Emily sat a little longer, said goodbye, and slowly walked home. She felt sorry for the family, but she couldn't help them in any way. Emily walked through the park and suddenly saw a bag on a bench. The bag was small but expensive looking, more like a diplomat bag. Despite her poverty, Emily was excellent with things and could immediately tell if something was valuable or not. Emily looked around, no one was there. She picked up the bag, turned it over. There were no inscriptions or tags on it. She listened, nothing was ticking. And Emily decided to open it. The bag contained some papers printed on a printer. There were a lot of them, some were in folders, others were just in a transparent file. Emily realized that someone had accidentally left it here and was probably looking for their loss. She took out the papers and started looking for the contact information and found a stack of business cards in the inner side pocket. After reading the name and patronymic, she dialed the number listed. Someone answered on the first ring. "I'm listening," said a stern male voice. "Hello," Emily hesitantly spoke. "Did you lose a bag?" "I did," the man shouted joyfully. "Did you find it?" "Yes, I found it in the park. Where can I bring it to you?" "Girl, you were sent by God himself. You have no idea what you just did. You saved me. Where are you?" Emily was even embarrassed and shyly gave her address. "I'll be there in 10 minutes. Emily sat down on the bench. What a funny man, she thought. She didn't have to wait long, just about 10 minutes. An expensive car pulled up to the park entrance and a man in a suit got out. Emily immediately realized that he was the one she had spoken to on the phone. So she picked up her purse and confidently went to meet him. "I was the one who called you," Emily shouted and waved her hand. The man quickened his pace towards Emily. When he came close, he smiled and said, "You're my savior. You have no idea what would have happened if I had really lost those papers." Emily carefully examined her conversation partner. "No way. He's the richest and most influential man in our town. And I'm talking to him just like that," she thought. Apparently, the man noticed the surprise on Emily's face and smiled. "Do you recognize me?" "Yeah," Emily answered simply like a child. "I'll tell my mom, she won't believe me." "What does your mom do for a living?" Emily hesitated. She wasn't ashamed of her mom, but she didn't want to say that her mom was a cleaner. "That doesn't matter. Take your bag and don't lose it again." "What's your name?" "Why do you need to know?" "Well, I should know the name of my savior." "Emily. My name is Emily." "Where do you live? I can give you a ride home. It's getting dark." Emily didn't even notice that it had gotten dark and nodded in agreement. The owner of the bag invited her into his car. As they were approaching his house, he asked, "How can I thank you? Tell me any wish you have. I promise it will be granted. Refusals are not accepted. I must thank you. So it would be easier if you voiced what you want." Emily's desires whirled around in her head. She first wanted to ask for a computer, then a washing machine, a new job for her mom, a trip to the sea. But then she suddenly had an idea. "Oh, I know what I want. If it's possible, of course. I have an acquaintance, a little girl who can't walk. She needs an expensive operation very badly. They live in the basement with their grandmother, and they don't have the money for the operation. If it's possible, since you can do anything, maybe you could help this girl. She's only 13 years old, I feel really sorry for her." Emily said all this in one breath, and the man didn't take his eyes off her. "You want me to help this girl?" "Yes, please, if possible. We need to see the doctor's report. Can she really be helped?" "Yes, she can. Her grandmother told me about it." "Can you show me where she lives?" "Of course, it's nearby." But what surprised me was something else. You could have asked for anything for yourself, but you asked for someone else. Your heart must have a hard time fitting in your chest. It's huge and very kind. I haven't met people like you in my life, even though I've lived for a long time. You see, she has a very sad story. And she retold everything that Grace and her grandmother had told her. "And I have my own home, my mom, we're healthy and can walk. But Grace can't, please help her." "I'll try." They arrived at Grace's house, and Emily ran out of the car and into the basement. She quickly told story to Miss Peters and asked for the doctor's conclusion. The grandmother was surprised but obediently handed over all medical documents, and Emily handed them to the man in the car. A week later, Grace went to surgery. It was a real miracle that no one could believe. The man kept his promise and helped resolve the issue with the operation. A month passed. Emily was returning from school when she saw a familiar car near her entrance. She ran up to it joyfully, but the man she gave the bag to in the car was not there. The driver, seeing the girl, said that the boss was waiting for her and wanted to talk. Emily was not afraid at all, calmly got into the car, and the driver took her in an unknown direction. They drove into a cottage settlement, and Emily looked around, trying to understand where they had taken her. The car stopped near a 2-story house. The house was small but very beautiful and original. Emily got out of the car and walked into the yard. The familiar man was coming towards her. "Good afternoon. What happened?" Emily asked. "Emily, listen to me, please. You are a very good person, very. And you have done a lot for me, very much. You saved a very, very large sum of my money, so what I did in return is nothing. He handed Emily several bunches of keys. This is now your house. Yours, your mother's, and... He paused for a couple of seconds and added, I think that Grace with her brother and grandmother could fit in here too. There are 6 rooms in the house, enough room for everyone. Emily looked at him and started crying. Oh, please don't cry, I can't stand to see women's tears. But that's not all. Next year you will finish school, then go to college to study at my organization. And when you graduate, you will head my foundation. Agreed? Are you still asking? Of course, I agree. You are a real wizard. I thought such things only happen in fairy tales. Oh, come on, life is even more interesting than a fairy tale. So, is it a deal? It's a deal, Emily said happily, and they shook hands.